Welcome back to the program. Thank you so much for staying with us. It's time for Opinion Court. You can get in touch with us, 22422. That's our SMS line, and reach out to us on social media at Citizen TV Kenya and at Citizen TV News. The Facebook pages go by those names. I want to begin by giving you a chronology of what we've been seeing in what we're calling the Death Belt, and we basically mean the North Rift over the last 6 months, because what we've seen in the past week is not an isolated incident. So let's start with the 2nd of November 2014. Raiders ambush and kill 22 police officers and 3 civilians near Kapedo. After that, of course, as we've mentioned, this only spirals. More attacks. A retired KDF soldier and his son are ambushed and killed. That's in West Pokot. That was on the 7th of December 2014. And the violence continues unabated until the 26th of February 2015, where bandits attack various villages in Turkana South, killing 2 and stealing goats there. And then that is met with even more violence on the 1st of April this year. Lorogon village along the Turkana border comes under siege. We have about 700 locals trapped in a siege that lasted shamefully for 1 week without security response. On the 3rd of April, 2 people were shot dead by gunmen in Maralal town. Remember, we're talking about the North Rift generally and the insecurity there. And then we have the 1st of May 2015 with 3 Turkana herders killed in Baragoy. 100 cattle are stolen, which basically gives rise to the latest attack where at least 14 people were killed. Sorry, the one preceding the latest, 14 people killed, 13 others injured in separate attacks. That was in Samburu North and Mount Kulal. And then we come up, I believe, to this week now where 54 are killed in Adome, Turkana County. Scores are injured, and in fact we have numbers exceeding that. Right now we're reporting figures in the region of the 60s. So let me now introduce to you my Opinion Court panel. As I mentioned earlier, we have Abbas Gulet, the Secretary General of the Kenya Red Cross, joining us. Edward Kisiangani in the middle. He's our resident political analyst, and our security expert this evening, Richard Tuta. Gentlemen, welcome to the program. I want to begin with the latest, which is the unfortunate news that basically a high-level security team led by the Deputy Inspector General of Police, which was going to Nadome area to basically, you know, show the face of government and bring back a sense of calm and the fact that, you know, the government is on top of this situation. They themselves get ambushed by bandits. Nobody's attacked. Richard, let me start with you. Is this something that is surprising to you at all?
Let me start by first of all sending my condolences to all the affected family around that area. But about what you have asked, it is very unfortunate. But to me, it is not a surprise, because if you look at what you have shown there, is that for the last almost over 6 months or over 1 year, the government has always been using one strategy towards what is happening in those areas. And normally, when you use the same strategy, expect the same results. So as we continue using the same strategy, let us always expect the same result. And what I mean by saying the same strategy is that the government has always been using soft power against these bandits. And the end result of soft power is all this we have been seeing, frequent attacks. So it is a high time for the government now to decide whether they want to continue the soft power way, or they want to change it and maybe introduce the hard power, or maybe the third one, use both soft power and hard power. Remember, every time an attack happens, we have been taken through the same thing, that is of threats that within 48 hours, within 1 week, return your weapons, within this, until it has reached a point that these threats now have lost credibility. So what now is required first is for our national security system to work very hard to regain that credibility. And in fact, to me, I'm also looking at it again as an opportune moment for the government now to recharge its batteries of deterrence.
Prof, do you agree with the sentiments? Has the government been unable to pacify the North Rift, and do you think at all it has ceded some sort of authority in these regions, in the North Rift specifically, where we see marauding gangs going about their business unpunished?
I think let us be fair to the government on this. The government we don't expect the government to stop people who want to kill each other from killing each other, because they go to their own rooms at night, their own villages, their own houses, and then they arrange to kill others. So why do you want the government to do a disparate job of stopping people who want to kill themselves? You must also have support from the people, the local people, and they must demonstrate they still want to live one more day, including the ones that Abbas Guled has been saving. I'm sure if he leaves them, they will kill somebody. So there is totally no reason why we should blame this government on this one for this death. I think probably we should leave them to kill each other for some time until they realize the importance of what? Of life before we go there. And then, secondly, Anne, the matter that is at stake here, he has suggested the question of soft and hard power. There has been cases of hard power, which is military operation in this area. In 1984, in the mid-80s, in fact, the government employed the army to go into Pokot, and it did a lot of work. And sometimes you succeed, sometimes you don't succeed. But if Jomo Kenyatta did not deal with this problem and succeed, if Daniel Arap Moi did not succeed, Mwai Kibaki did not succeed, why would the people call conferences telling Uhuru you have not done it in 2 years? I think the bottom line is to sit down and look at the cause, and we suggest what we can do to change that area. I don't think that it is going to be easy and to just say, let the government do this, and subsequent governments where some people served did not sort out the problem.
You know, I'm going to come back to that in the changing nature of this conflict, but I must say some of your sentiments already surprising, saying that they should be left to kill each other, and I wonder, Abbas, as a humanitarian, if this had happened in Nairobi, in an urban center, and over 56 people were killed, I hardly doubt that Professor would have had the same sentiments and basically said, let people go and kill each other. Do you feel like the sanctity of human life is lost when it comes to poor people, people without access to the things that we enjoy in the city, and that for them, they're forgotten? If one dies, if 50 die, and who do you think is complicit in that?
Well, I think I'm really, from where I sit as a humanitarian, there should be not a single life that should be lost, right, whatever the case, whether you are in the northern Kenya or you are in the comfort of our homes in Nairobi. And I would go back to what you said in the opening remarks, that if I look at the last 6 months, I can, from our information that we have, there have been over 50 attacks in this entire region. And I'm happy that this evening you are showing the bigger picture. Actually, Nandome is not in Turkana County. Nandome is in Baringo County. Nandome is in Silale. Silale is in Tiati constituency. Tiati constituency is in East Pokot or in Baringo. So what I fail to understand is, as Kenyans, many of us do not even understand these places. We just hear names and we go after them. But you're right in narrating too that over the last 1 week, that fateful Sunday, there were killings and counter-killings both in Turkana and in Pokot, and then in Turkana and Samburu. It was followed by Monday in Marsabit, Samburu, and Tuesday again Marsabit again. And the question one begs to ask, for how long will this situation continue in these regions? We've seen over the years prior to elections, areas like Isiolo, Marsabit, Moyale, Mandera, Wajir, sometimes Garissa, Tana River, which is then, and Turkana and Pokot, then you could say probably is election related, it's boundaries, it is moving of people out. But elections happened 2+ years ago. What's happening now? Cattle rustling is another disease in this country.
And I want to come to that shortly, but I just want you to give me a definitive answer on my question. Do you feel this is a forgotten frontier, and predominantly forgotten, and nobody cares, and Prof can make the statements he's made, because these are poor people who do not have the wherewithal of noise like the rest of us? I don't think these are poor people.
If they had taken their resources well, and what Mother Nature has given and God has given them, they wouldn't be poor people.
But there has been continued marginalization of that area?
There has been, but one could say that has been even pre-independence.
Right.
Pre-independence, the white colonial government had left these areas to govern themselves. There was a white district governor and district commissioner who was there, and the rest of the business was manned by local people. You had home guards. Today, probably, we cannot even imagine that the government can have enough forces, police or AP or, military or JCU, whatever you want to call. There won't be sufficient of them in these places. Nandome was almost 60 kilometers from Kapedo, from Lomelo. If you walk the distances, this week, Tuesday, my staff, led by the community, walked for almost 20 kilometers back and forth. People even know there was a journalist who got lost. So I'm indifferent to be answering your question, and really today I would say, to some extent, to maybe the dislike of others, I think these communities are now marginalizing themselves.
Right. Because
you have devolved government, they have resources. I think what we need to do is children, 14, 16, who are the fighters who are killing one another the other day, they need to be in school. We need to build boarding schools. We need to open up this place. Infrastructure needs to be open. We have to have dams. We have to have water. The pastoralists do not have to roam this vast land that we've been roaming for centuries. We can change people's life without having to change their lifestyles of being pastoralists. But they could practice both. We've done that in Tot Kolowa. Pokots and Marakwet used to fight for years. I can take you to Kolowa today. These two communities are coexisting. They are farming 250 acres here, 250 acres. They're sharing water for the first time.
Let me bring Prof on this. What's the difficulty in changing that culture and telling people, and this is a practice that they love, that is historical for them, certainly has meaning to them, that this doesn't work now and this is becoming a source of repeated conflict? How do you change that?
You see, Anne, the way our country is today, it has various forms, what you call modes of production, operating at the same time. Most of the communities in northern Kenya are operating in what we call in political economy pre-capitalist modes of production. Pre-capitalist, but they are also distorted in such a sense that they are now carrying some of the instruments that are produced through a capitalist mode of production, namely the grants. But their daily life is pre-capitalist, therefore they are within the context of feudal order and a communal order, which is hunter-gathering. But the people who come there to stop their fighting...
You're essentially saying they're backwards.
Yes. So the first part of doing it, it takes long for people to change. In fact, when they change, they must see the need to change. It's like Anne waking up in the morning and telling people, today I want you to be like this, like this. And if inside their heart they don't think they can change, they will not change. So it's a process which takes time. And part of the process, what my brother Abbas Kulet is saying, is for the government to start opening up the area. We have this infrastructure, and probably do what you call land demarcation, and change and start giving people, create the sentiment of private property, which is not there.
As opposed to communal land.
Communal land where you can roam everywhere. That is, most communities in Kenya have moved, and they are now in the private property sector, while these guys are in communal. Therefore, these modes of production are clashing. That's why I said probably they like the thing, but I was doing it with a heavy heart, because I think that we can fix it, but it's not going to be very, very easy. You need to work extremely hard from both sides of the divide. The leadership that is there must start telling people, you must move away from this communal thing. And you remember also that there's another bit, Anne, which is good for our viewers to notice. The original basis of pastoral thinking, pastoral societies, was that, you see, if you look at even Israel is a pastoral, the Jews were pastoralists, and they used, the pastoral culture is the one that created even Islam and Christianity and Judaism. And now you see a scale of violence there, even with the modernization.
You're saying pastoralists are violent by nature.
Yes.
Am I hearing
because
you
let me tell you, in Israel, there is this uncompromising situation, yet, the wild resources have been mobilized towards that area. I'm just, let me finish my point. And when it happens like that, Anne, other communities have also picked up the same religion, and now it has been internationalized. but they come with a different culture which is also resisted. They use terms like shepherd, while the original thinking is that a shepherd is supposed to look after animals. Then the people themselves who are within that pastoral culture want to look after animals, but God shepherds the human beings. Now, they are so uncompromising. They value animal life more than human life. That is my point. That you see, if you live in a society where you value the life of animals and you can save animals and then kill the people who are pursuing those animals, there is a problem, and it will take long, and it involves all of us. It does not help to tell government you must fix this when we are doing nothing.
Let me come to Richard, because Prof has touched on a few things that have been said to be the cause of the conflict, and from a security perspective, when you look at the latest attacks, the sort of if you like, weapons that the bandits have, the veracity of the attacks. Would you say that the nature of the conflict is changing? It has previously been about pure cattle rustling, then we've heard now about the commercialization of cattle rustling. Is it a boundaries issue? Is it the proliferation of arms in this area and the inability of government to repeatedly mop it up instead of, sort of waiting for this huge attack to take place, then tomorrow we're going to mop up arms? Or is it a mixture of it all?
One thing you must realize that from a pickpocketer to any other type of a criminal, all of them are rational thinkers. What I mean by being rational thinkers is that before they undertake any action, they do what we call a cost-benefit analysis of their action. They ask themselves, how much am I going to invest into this? And when I invest this amount, how much am I going to get? If he realizes that what he is going to get will be lower than the investment that he's going to put into his action, he cannot proceed and carry out that act of crime. Now, back to this issue of Capedona, what is happening in Baringo, is that these people cannot change, because where they are feeling comfortable and they are benefiting from their actions. In terms of wherever they stole that cattle, there is very high possibility.
It finds a market.
It finds the market. Two, there is very high possibility of him going to a raid and succeeds. And if at all he is arrested, there is his community to come in and to start talking about our people are being targeted. Then the next day, he is released. Four, even if he's taken to any court today, the next day he is released.
How do you deal with such people?
Now, I want now to say the best way forward.
Yes.
If we want to reduce any level of crime, you must always make sure that you reduce the benefit of his action. And this one now comes in terms of in terms of punishment and in terms of defense. You must make it difficult for anyone who wants to choose crime as his trade not to. This one in terms of how you defend your things, and this is now the issues of weapons. So that let these people know that as much as they are coming in with AK-47, the government should consider having more superior weapons. Because the moment these people realizes that they have got more superior weapons than the weapons that the government have, then they know they have got high chances of succeeding.
Right.
Two, the other thing that the government needs to do is to increase the level of punishment.
If you consider that...
All right. I want to hold it there, Prof. Let me bring in Abbas, because you actually engage with these communities when you're, when you're doing your humanitarian work. Can you speak to them? Do you get the sense, as the rest of my panel, that they are stuck in their ways?
No, I don't think so. I think these are people who are very clever, very wise, very knowledgeable, even if you want to call them backwards from the perspective of education. If that means civilization, they're civilized in their own ways. If that equals civilization,
yes.
But for me, really, the point, as I said, is these are areas that have been marginalized for years by successive governments of the colonial government and maybe the other governments today. We need to open up these places. Infrastructure is priority. We hope and pray that devolved government will open these places up. So for the animals, if there are slaughterhouses, if there are meat processing plants and services out there, if there's electricity there, if there's energy there, it will be a different world. If these kids, instead of at 10, 11, 9, big sharpshooters and being given guns, what you saw in some of the pictures, they need to be in school. Why are they not in school? We need to build schools. We need to take care of them. They need to have laboratories. They need to have science classes. They need to have the laptops. They need to have the computers. They need to be given opportunities. In fact, they should be in this whole area of northern Kenya. They should be affirmative action, big way. Big way.
Not just left to governors.
No. And then not to governors alone, not county government alone. But primarily for me too, what I'm looking at is about investment in agriculture, in food, in water safety, so that even pasture, they don't have to roam these distances. If you saw the distances that the police choppers went yesterday and go, we went on the very first day because the community could take us there, because there's trust. And these communities are trusting organizations. They don't trust today the security forces. They are fearful of them. And I don't hide. I would say even the guns that were taken in Kapedo, we got them as Red Cross because the community could trust us and we handed over back to the government. We would have done that in Baragoi, we could have done that in Tana River.
But that is the problem, my brother. The problem is the president goes there and then he tells people, you must surrender these guns. They tell him, give us some time. And then after some time on, you start picking the guns, which means that
in this one, Prof, I can tell if I tell about Kapedo, they were returned in 4 days. 21 out of 23 were returned in 4 days.
But the response was there.
No, the response is there. What I'm trying to say, you know, people say president. I think we should give the president a break. The president, when people talk about a country, who is a government? I am government. You are government. We all are government. Government is not only the president or the members of parliament or the ministers or the civil servant. It's all of us. We have a role and responsibility to this nation. So my
position was not to bring in the president in that context. I'm just saying that there are people who offered information and said, if you give us some time, we are likely to get the guns come. And then we saw some action from the community, which means the community, some members of the community know who is involved in this cattle rustling or probably the violence. Now today you have heard that the entourage led by Assistant IG, Deputy IG was attacked. So what the people who are attacking Kaindi, those whose relatives were killed, or were they the bandits?
So we don't know.
Well, Prof, you know what, we have to wind up our conversation, unfortunately. I want to circle through from you, Richard, with your closing remarks, and then Abbas, you'll just touch briefly on what the humanitarian situation is there and your final remarks as well. So let me start with you, Richard. In conclusion, what needs to happen? Will we ever see an end to this in our generation? And if government was to put best foot forward, and Abbas has rightly said the government is you and I as well, but if central government was to put their best foot forward, how can we end this?
This is a situation that can even be changed within 24 hours.
No.
I think the government has got the capacity. And the capacity here, all that is required is a good political political goodwill. Because you see, as much as the CS has ordered the troops to move into Baringo, that's not the problem. The problem is the brief that these security officers will be given and what will happen immediately when they arrive, because this is not the first time that officers are being sent to such like areas. Remember,
so changing it in 24 hours would happen how?
It can happen.
How?
If there is a goodwill, and if the police themselves are given very good instructions.
The goodwill on whose part?
The goodwill, remember the problem in this country is that we have politicized security management in this country. That even when, and that's why the last time I said that the problem we have in this country is that we have a very good police force, which is just like Goliath. But the problem with this Goliath is that this Goliath is on shackles. Until we remove these shackles from Goliath, we will receive results.
Prof.
Quickly, the way out is this. We must recognize that a military solution alone will not help. So we need an eclectic approach to the issue. One, go by what Gulet is saying, open up the area to infrastructure, schools, and as I said, demarcate the land and turn the land pieces into private property. Then thirdly, you know, even after you are using the military solution, try now to educate people on the need to value human life. If we take several approaches, take people there, take resources there, we are likely to move somewhere.
Aggressive development.
Yeah, aggressive development.
Abbas, what you've seen, what the humanitarian need is, and of course your final thoughts.
Well, the humanitarian needs and all the time is every time this attacks takes place is very sad, because largely women and children are caught in this. It's no longer a men-only conflict. And the sad part, I mean, you know, with my brothers' Pokots, they don't even bury. So we couldn't even take those bodies. And where do you take them? And who do you give them to? For now, of course, there's always displaced population, aftermath of this conflict, loss of animals, so they have lost their livelihoods. So they start from zero again all the time. No wonder then this cyclical of, you know, raid and counter raids.
Right.
God forbid, but I can almost bet my money if I were to bet, 400 plus animals are said to have been taken. And the other party know where they were taken. If nothing is done to return them, there'll be retaliation. That's what happened in Lomerek in Baragoi. That's what happened now in this area of Nandome. This is what has happened in Samburu on the other side, and it will happen again. The question is long term. Long term is for these communities themselves, their leadership, and the masses, both political, community, religious, to come together. There were peace talks about a month ago, and people signed deals. These deals are not even worth on the paper signed for, because people don't believe in it. So I go back to what I said earlier and what Prof said. It's about opening up of these areas. Huge investment is to be done. Now there are resources coming up in this area. It was just not land alone. Now it's about boundaries, it's about minerals, it's about oil, it's about all these new discoveries being discovered, and people probably is perceived that there are people who are instigating this. And really for me what I would say is long term, we need to find a long lasting solution is to really get these communities to take kids to school, water, health, food security, farming, new ways. Even the pastoralists, they can still live with this system if there were slaughterhouses, there were places where you could do
the proper infrastructure in place. And I suppose we can't end the show without me saying congratulations to the Red Cross on 50 years of great work in Kenya. We're certainly better for it.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
And thank you for being part of the show. Abbas Gillette, Secretary General of the Kenya Red Cross, Edward Kisiangani, he's our FAI political analyst, and Richard Tuta, security expert. We are back with more news after these messages.